This program is made possible by funding from the Illinois Arts Council, a state agency, by the Corporation for Public Broadcasting, and by viewers like you. Thank you. Welcome to this edition of State of the Arts. I'm your host, Becky Cramblit. Today we're going to take you to Springfield's Legacy Theater, where they're currently rehearsing for their next production, Legally Blonde. We'll talk to the director of the theater as well as the director of the play, some of the actors, and some of the people behind the scenes. So come join me as we take a look inside theater. We're talking with Scott Richardson. He's the director of the Legacy Theater. Scott, we have lots to talk about.
Great.
Let's start at the beginning. Tell me about how you got involved in the arts.
You know what, I've been involved in the arts from elementary school days. You know, I was always the kid with the crayons and the coloring books. And I was really fortunate to have a lot of school teachers here in Springfield through the public schools that, you know, were really supportive of all kinds of the arts. You know?
Right.
And I actually came to theater through puppetry. I started doing puppets when I was in 3rd grade, and, you know, had neighborhood puppet shows, had my own little puppet theater in the basement, and so all the way through college, actually, we had a puppet troupe that toured around to area schools and libraries.
Very neat.
And so gradually gravitated more toward theater from puppetry. I always say I got tired of building the actors. So oddly enough, the first show that I did here at this theater was Little Shop of Horrors, because they brought me in because they needed a puppet guy.
Oh,
so
yeah.
I came in and I did the man-eating plant puppets for Little Shop of Horrors right after college, and I stayed as a part of the theater community ever since.
So tell me about the Legacy. How did you get involved in getting it restarted? Well, and give me a little bit of background on the Legacy, because it was here and then they shut the doors. And...
Sure. The building was built as the first community theater structure here in Springfield in 1951. And people, you know, were selling insurance policies and having bake sales and all kinds of fundraisers to build this facility. Because think about it, it was right after the war, and, you know, at that time, you know, community theater plays were being held in church basements and school auditoriums in the area, and they had a vision that they wanted a place to call their own where they could do, you know, great plays and musicals for the community. So everybody worked very hard and built this facility, and it opened in 1951 with a production of Born Yesterday. And then hundreds of wonderful productions were staged here until 2004, at which point
it's a really long time.
It's a really long time. It's a wonderful history. It was the Springfield Theater Guild was the organization that built the building, and in 2004, that group, which was now called the Springfield Theater Center, moved into the new Arts Center downtown. And so, you know, this facility then, you know, was for sale and became dormant. And, you know, it is what it is. It's a theater. It's not really a facility that someone could come in and make into a restaurant or a store or a house. It's a theater. And so, you know, over the years, it fell further and further into disrepair. And many of us that have memories in this building, you know, from days gone by, you know, you'd drive by and you'd see it, you know, looking very sad. And, you know, somebody doesn't usually, you know, you're not supposed to buy real estate as an emotional decision, but we did. Yes, exactly. And so it's been an absolute labor of love to bring this facility back to life. And we christened it the Legacy Theater because we wanted to honor all of those people in the 50s that created this. This is their legacy.
What did you have to do to the facility in order to get it in working order?
Oh my gosh, well, we had to do a lot. And it's literally been a labor of love, and it has been done almost entirely by volunteers, which is a staggering amount of effort. We left, I always say we left everything that was dangerous to the professionals, so electrical, plumbing, heating, cooling, those types of things. You know, at one point we had 3 electrical contractors in the building simultaneously, because we bought the building in April and we opened it on July 15th.
Wow.
So it was a race. So, and not only were we renovating the building, but we were rehearsing a show here at the same time.
Fun. You just jumped in with both feet, didn't you?
Exactly. You know, my friend Mary, our costume designer, said that we do not do ready, aim, fire. We do fire, ready, aim. And
perfect.
That's tragically funny.
Typical theater stuff.
Exactly. But we opened on schedule on July 15th. Now, we didn't have carpet. and we had temporary air conditioning for the first week, but the show will go on, and it was great. We had great fun, and so since that time we've done, I think, 10 different events here at the theater in the last, well, we're coming up on a year.
And a lot of different genres, right?
Lots of different things, right. We want to be very quirky. So we have community theater here, we have plays and musicals, and we've done several of those. We've also had movies. Seeing a film here at the Legacy is a wonderful experience because it's very old school. It's one of the biggest screens in town. We have a 26-foot screen, and it's very cozy and very nice. There's something about going to a theater to see a film and a red curtain opens.
Oh,
and
absolutely.
then you see the movie. That's really nice.
That's the way it should be, right?
Exactly. It's very romantic.
So Legally Blonde's coming up.
Exactly.
Tell me about that.
Exactly. It's a great show. It opens July 13th here at the Legacy, and it's a huge musical for us. Quite the undertaking. I think we have a cast of, what, 24, something like that.
So you'd say this is the biggest local theater production so far?
It's the biggest one that we've done so far. Yeah. Big cast. You know, huge musical numbers. You know, 2 trained dogs.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Yeah, we bit it off with this one.
No pun intended. Exactly. It always makes things unpredictable when you have animals.
Right, exactly, and it's loads of fun.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's really quite the effort. Lots of scenery, lots of costumes.
Yes.
You know,
and
a full orchestra.
Wow.
Yeah. So I think we have 9 or 10 pieces in the orchestra.
So you have lots of pieces that have to come together.
Exactly. Yeah. And sometimes you think, will this happen? And it always does.
Yeah. We're talking with Gregg Jonathan. He's director of Legally Blonde. Gregg, let's get some background on you. You've been in the theater production, both sides of the stage, the fence, for a long time, so tell me about that.
Yes, I've been more on stage than behind the scenes, but I've been performing for years. I met my wife doing dinner theater. We did some professional theater years and years ago, over 15 years ago, and then had children, and then really became involved in the community theater once we moved here to Springfield from Chicago. So I've known Scott, who owns the Legacy here, since then, for about 12 years, I guess, and have been doing theater here with Scott's production companies at the Muni, at the Theater Center, the Hoagland Center for the Arts, Theater in the Park. So I've been very involved here in town.
You said you had kids. Have you found the theater a place where you can make it a family event?
Absolutely, yeah. And some companies are more friendly to that than others. So Scott knows, the Jonathans, if they're going to be involved. My wife's the vocal director for the show as well. So if the Jonathans are going to be involved, there are usually 4 children that follow them around. So
now you said you've spent more time on stage. Have you had some characters maybe that you are more fond of playing than others?
Sure, I was just the Tin Man at the Muni last summer in The Wizard of Oz. I was Bobby and Company at the Theater Center, which I really enjoyed that role. There are lots of them. I was Pippin and Pippin out at Theater in the Park. I was Josh in Scott's Big out at the Muni in 2003. So I've had some great opportunities here in Springfield to play some really great characters.
Did you grow up loving the theater?
You know, I didn't really start singing. I really only do musical theater. I did straight plays and that sort of stuff in high school, but I really didn't start singing until I was about a senior in high school. I didn't know I could. And so I sort of got involved, and then did a little bit of professional work. And after college, I'm a social worker by trade. So yeah, it's one of those things that kind of bites you, and you can't ever quite shake it once you get involved.
Right, and you've been involved with the Legacy Theater since they reopened.
Right, Scott has had a whole lot of people who have been really involved and helped him create this great new space. We haven't been quite that as involved. I have those 4 children that take up some time, but he's had a slew of volunteers who have done a tremendous amount of work. We've done a little bit, but this opportunity sort of afforded itself in September to direct this show, and it's just a show I like a lot. It's not a show that I would necessarily want to be in, but I love the piece and what it's about and the music, and so it's sort of all timed out for us to do it this summer.
Well, let's talk specifically about this production. Auditions were held back when?
In December, right after Christmas. We really wanted to get those college kids, because that's really most of the cast is that age. So in order to get them, you got to get them while they're here. So we did it over Christmas break, and were able to cast the show then.
So once you picked all your cast members, when did you start rehearsing?
We did not start rehearsing until 3 weeks ago. So we're only doing like a 7-week rehearsal period. We
Just
really
7 weeks.
Right. Well,
every night.
You know, that's actually a really quick rehearsal period for this show. It is a huge production show.
I bet.
So every other number is a huge dance number. We ran scenes 1 through 3 the other night, and at the end of it, the cast was sweating buckets after doing, you know, 3 huge dance numbers, and I think they realized, wow, this is going to be intense, but having a load of fun too. We have a great choreographer, Susie Collier, who is really one of the best in town, and has some huge dance numbers that she's done, and it's a lot of work. It's a lot of work for her to sit down and figure that out, and what makes her so good is that she layers everything so much. So this person's doing this, this group of people are doing this, and then this group's doing that, and then it all sort of blends together and makes for incredible dance numbers.
Now, how far out from the actual performance date do you start with dress rehearsals and have all your set and everything in place?
Well, you sort of start to add things as you get them. So, you know, Scott and I were talking today that, you know, there's a few set pieces that he would like to start using soon. He's designed the set. So, just some things that are really going to need some work to negotiate and make sure that they're working the right way. But typically the week before Tech Week's that week you open and you add the sound and the lights and the orchestra and the costumes, but we really will start adding some of that stuff the week before to make it as fluid as possible. And it's a lot as a performer to have all of this stuff thrown at you at once, so you really sort of want to phase it in as much as you can to make it comfortable.
Now, as far as directing, have you learned to direct by being an actor and being directed?
Yeah, definitely. Yes, definitely. As a performer, you get all sorts of different kinds of directors, and I always feel like as a performer, I need a director who's going to be my mirror. I can't see what I'm doing. I'm doing what I think is right, but I can't see it, and so I need somebody who's going to go, oh, you know, this, you need to do this, or you need to think about this when you're saying it, or you don't sound sad, or you don't sound happy, or you've got to hear that feedback. Some directors are hesitant to do that to performers, especially some that have a lot of experience. So. I really want to be that director who can give that feedback, and I sort of have a policy. If I'm going to be in a show, the director has to be really, really good or really, really nice. And sometimes you get fortunate and have the person that comes together. That's right. And so I want to be that for the folks in the show. I want them to have a good time. There's no point in doing it if we're not going to have fun. But I want it to be a good production. I want it to be fulfilling for everybody involved. Yeah.
Why do you think it is, everybody here is volunteer. Why do you think it is that people are so passionate and willing to give up night after night after night for this production?
You know, it is amazing, and sometimes in the middle of a production you go, oh my gosh, this is insane. I am spending all this time doing this for free. I'm doing it for fun and for free. You have those moments, but it is such a passion for people who are involved in the arts. I think it's such a difficult thing for Joe Public to understand that, really. You know, you spend 7 weeks, 5 nights a week, from 6:30 to 9:30 or 10 o'clock at night at a theater rehearsing this show, and then you do it and you don't get paid for it. It is, just saying it, it's a bizarre concept. It is, but it is so fulfilling. It's such a need, I think, that everybody involved in it has, that they've gotten bitten by that bug, and you can't ever quite put it away once you have it.
This is Mary McDonald. She's the costume coordinator for Legally Blonde, and from what I understand, that's a huge job. Right. Why don't you tell me about it?
Yeah, I should ask a lot more questions before I agree to do these shows, is what I've decided. But yes, it's got a large cast, but even more interesting about this one is the cast has multiple parts that they're playing. So they'll start off being maybe one person in the first scene, and then 2 scenes later they're a professor, and then 2 scenes later they're a law student. So that's important to note, because part of what the role for this particular task is, I guess, is we have to figure out how many costumes they may need to wear at one time, and they will have maybe a few seconds to take off.
Crank the air up.
Oh, Lordy. So it's taking costumes off and putting them on. So it's overdressing, underdressing, and that's really got to be choreographed backstage as well.
Yes.
But at this stage, we have to get it right so we know how to then help them run the show as tight a scene as possible. So the shorter, they don't like to wait and say, excuse me, we're doing costume changes in the back. So with that in mind, we started, when I say we, Betty Ring's my co-coordinator with this, so we do some work together. She's my sister. So we basically have started, the first step is to sort of look at what's in the basement of my home, and because that is sort of where we store a lot of the things. And I probably have a couple thousand costumes there that have been from shows that we've done together with Scott and other company members. And
so you've just collected them over the years.
Right, so they just get to stay at my house for a while. So as a result, and some things we order. So one of the things that we knew we needed right off the bat is there's a whole scene where the girls in this number play prisoners. They're, you know, that's a whole other thing. But as a result, we have to have them in prison-like garb. So we had to basically find something as lovely as this and have several of these. We haven't done any fittings yet.
I haven't seen these in the stores, so how did you
Well, if you'd like to, no, this was online. It's very helpful to actually go online shopping.
Oh yeah.
So actually, you might be a good size. You could have you try this on and see if that'll work.
Oh, you're not working me into this play.
All right, fine, that's good.
So.
But we'll have them. Here's an example. They're going to end up in a workout video, so that for a few seconds they're playing a different cast, different group of people, and then they have to immediately go into this. So we got to figure out how they'll be underdressed.
Yeah.
So you'll see them wearing something of this. Then we're looking for a whole group of Harvard law students. So that's a different, and they start off in LA. So they're going to be at UCLA students, and then we see them later in law. So they go across the country in a different college, which means we had to do some research to find out what these colleges look like, what the colors are, and so forth. And then climate makes a difference. So they'll be wearing wool when they go east. In California, they'll be in some cottons. But basically, we'll have some of the law students wearing something not quite as preppy, for instance, as they might in California. So we have to pay attention to that. So we've got some things for the guys to try on.
Right.
There's a lot of pink in this in some places, so we have to also think about what the color will look like. So we're starting to look at what do we have in the way of pink that could be useful for some of the cast members, or something that looks on stage and looks nice with pink, for instance.
Right.
So we started pulling some things for a little wild and crazy characters, and doesn't mean,
a lot of bling.
You're right. We try to get a little bling going too, and doesn't mean that this is what we end up with. Sometimes it's nice to show them what they won't wear, and they're happy to go. When they see this, they go, "Oh, we'll be happy when we put them in something else." But
it's an interesting technique.
That's right. There's a lot of that.
Well, and from what I understand, the dog wears pink too, right?
Right. So I haven't gotten to that yet.
Yeah,
so
there's a whole new
challenge.
challenge.
There's actually 2 dogs. So here's one of them right here. So we're really working on, what looks best for that. Yeah, there we go. So yeah.
Perfect.
That's a mug shot, literally. So we have, sorry. But anyway, those are some of the things so as we're looking at the script, it'll tell us some clues on what they're supposed to be wearing. And then we have to talk with the lighting folks. We've got to talk with a lot with our choreographer, because we have to make sure these costumes actually work for what they're doing on stage as far as dancing and so forth. And certainly the director is constantly telling us, okay, this is what we need you to sort of help the character look like. So it's a collaborative effort all the way around, and we've got to get it right for all the people backstage and staffing this thing so that the folks who are actually wearing them can do their job on stage and looking like they're supposed to as well.
So on opening night, will you have all of these costumes lined up in a certain order? You know exactly when you're grabbing the next thing?
Yeah, that's kind of a fun thing to do too. When we finish with the sewing and the putting this together, then we have a whole other group of people who come in to help them dress. So it doesn't mean it sounds really nice to say it's all going to be in one place, but chances are they're going to be in about 10 places, because if they come and leave off of this side of the stage and then they come back on that side and they have just maybe a half a scene to sort of change, we will have people dressing just off stage.
Right.
So we have a dressing room, or maybe 5 or 6 dressing rooms, where they just keep their costumes before and after show, but quite honestly, during a show, they are dressing all over the place.
What's the most enjoyable part of this for you?
I think it's really watching the show if we get a chance to. Sometimes we watch it from behind scenes because we're helping people on and off the outfits. But quite honestly, it's really looking for the chuckles that come when you know that actually you might have gotten it right and somebody actually laughs before they even talk on stage. It's because they've seen a costume that actually has a statement. That's really kind of fun when you sort of see that you made a connection with the audience on just something as simple as what they wore.
Right.
Or didn't wear sometimes. And the other is when you know there's a rush when something happens backstage to a costume and you have to run crazy with safety pins. And you're repairing things too. It's just the nature of the beast. So sometimes those are the adrenaline rush. You have to sort of fix something and no one else is supposed to know about that.
How to work on the fly. Huh?
Yeah. So those are interesting challenges, but you're happy to know that you're able to pull it together.
We're talking with the female star of the show, Katyfford. She plays the character of Elle Woods in Legally Blonde. Katie, tell me about your experience in acting. You've been acting for a very long time, and you have an interesting story about starting out here, right?
I do. Well, I started my acting career in kindergarten, and my first show was Charlotte's Web. I was a baby spider back at this theater when it was previously the Springfield Theater Center. And like I said, I was a baby spider, and that was back in 1996. And ever since then, I've been hooked. I've been doing shows at the Springfield Theater Center, the Muni, Jacksonville Theater Guild, everywhere. And this is my first time being back at this theater since it's reopened, so it's very exciting to kind of do a first full circle, going from my first role to maybe one of my last ones.
So. And you grew up in Springfield then?
Yes, I did.
All right, tell me about your experience here with this role. This is a massive undertaking. You're in every scene.
Every scene. Well, I really just love the character. Elle is just, in the beginning of the show, she's kind of misunderstood. Everyone kind of perceives her as this fun-loving sorority girl, which is what she is, but there's so much more to her character, and throughout the different scenes and throughout the show, you kind of get to see that. You get to see her take on different personas, becoming more serious. She goes, obviously, to Harvard Law in the pursuit of finding her one true love, Warner, and when she's out there, she realizes she's more than just this beautiful exterior and this blonde woman. She's someone who is driven, who is someone with integrity, and she kind of realizes that, and everyone else starts realizing that about her. And one thing I really love about the character of the Elle is she doesn't have to change who she is for people to like her, and that's something that I really admire about her.
Now the production is just like the movie, only with music, right?
Correct. It's basically the same thing. There's a few more vocal numbers that kind of give a little more spin off than the movie, but basically it's the same plot, the same concept.
What have you found to be the most challenging aspect of this role?
The most challenging aspect is, like you said, I'm in every single scene, so just keeping my energy up, making sure that I'm, giving 100% from the very first number to the very last number. And there's a lot of, it's vocally demanding. So just making sure my voice is 100% at all time. And so that's pretty much the hardest thing, is just making sure I'm keeping my energy up and I'm staying healthy.
Tell me about acting for you. What is it for you?
For me, it's kind of like an escape, it's a getaway. It's something that I've always loved to do. It's kind of like I said earlier, I kind of got bit by the theater bug. It's addicting. Like I wasn't even planning on doing a show this summer till I heard that Legally Blonde was happening. Then I was like, oh goodness, here I go again. I have to do it. And that's how I was last summer. I wasn't gonna do anything. And then I heard Hairspray and I'm like, oh, I wanna do Amber. So it's honestly, it's addicting. I have to do it. So I've been doing it since, like I said, I was in kindergarten. I haven't taken a break, I haven't stopped. This is going to be probably my 10th summer that I've been doing a show, and when I was younger I would do it all throughout the school year. So like I said, it's addicting, it's just so fun.
And where do you want to go from here with your acting?
Well, I'm currently a student at Illinois State where I'm doing marketing and sales, so I'm planning on moving to Chicago in December. So I mean, I might try out for some stuff down there just for fun, but it's more of just a hobby for me rather than something I think I'm going to take professionally. But I definitely feel like I'll always be doing theater my whole life. It's just part of who I am.
So you said you were in marketing and sales. Isn't that sort of an Elle-ish kind of background?
I feel, and everyone says, oh, you're going to be so great at that since you do theater. It's pretty much like performing every day. And I'm like, yeah, exactly. I guess I did pick the right career path.
Lie on the beach, dreams within reach, don't stray me Some girls fight hard, some face the trial, some girls were just meant to smile.
We're talking with Owen Beans right now. He plays the character of Emmett Forrest. Before we talk about your character and the whole way that you fit into Legally Blonde, tell me about your background. How did you get into acting?
Started when I was in second grade, my local high school, which I did tons of shows in once I got to high school. But when I was in second grade, they were doing The King and I, and the lady who directed those musicals also taught elementary school music, and she asked about 8 of us to be in it, to be like the prince and princesses. And I've always wondered, I am actually an identical twin, and it's very common in The King and I to have two twins that hold hands the whole time, or some of the children.
Really?
And so I've always wondered if that's really the only reason we were asked. I don't know if we really showed any sort of talent or anything. But my brother and I both enjoyed that and kind of stuck with it since.
Launched your career, huh?
Yes. Yes.
So where'd you go from there? You said in high school you were in a lot of plays.
Yeah, I did musical, 4 musicals there, 2 plays. So that kept me busy for high school.
And now you're in college?
I'm in college, Abilene Christian University in Abilene, Texas, where I am working towards a Bachelor of Fine Arts in Musical Theater.
Okay, and so every summer the theater seems to be your thing, right?
Right, yeah, I've done shows in Springfield the past 3 summers. Just wrapped up Joseph out at Muni, where I played Joseph, and now right back at it doing Legally Blonde here at the Legacy.
So tell me about your character in Legally Blonde. How does he fit into the storyline?
Emmett is the teaching assistant for kind of the main law class Elle is taking at Harvard. And so he's, you know, older and wiser, but kind of had a hard life to get there, so he can relate to the struggles she's having, and he's kind of there, and kind of ends up being her rock throughout the process of then gaining this internship where she's really into the law business a lot more, and he's just kind of there to help guide her, and eventually starts to realize he may have feelings beyond friendship for her. So.
Does he get the girl in the end?
He does, which is nice.
Yeah, it's a great role to play. Happy ending.
Yes.
That's all we have for this edition of State of the Arts. We hope you enjoyed the program. We'd like to thank Scott Richardson for his help today. Join us next time when we feature 2 artists from Quincy. I'm Becky Cramblit. Thanks for watching. This program is made possible by funding from the Illinois Arts Council, a state agency, by the Corporation for Public Broadcasting, and by viewers like you. Thank you.